So I'm Victoria Lougheed, and I am the Education and Learning Lead. Hi, I'm Victoria Lougheed. I'm the Education and Learning Lead for Family Caregivers of British Columbia. I'm currently sitting in this role for my colleague Kate, who is happily on a leave, looking after her new family. So while I'm in this role, I'm going to be doing Facebook Lives around some of the tips from the trenches, things that can help you kind of navigate the ins and outs of being a caregiver. My caregiving experience comes from being the caregiver of a youth with special needs, as well as being part of the circle of care for a number of parents and in-laws who are elderly and starting to face some of the challenges of life around that. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I like to do that helps me get going every year. I like to plan out my year as much as possible. So I have a planner, I have a diary, a journal as well, and I also use an online calendaring system that helps me with my planning. And the reason why I do all of these things is because there are a number of people in my family who participate in care activities. There's also a number of appointments, and I'm not necessarily the primary driver in my family. My husband does all of that. And so he needs to know what's going on with appointments and events and different tasks. And then we also have regular things like doctor's appointments, daily things like setting up meds, all that kind of stuff that goes into life when you have a more complicated family structure. So what I like to do is I like to, early in January, this week typically, is I go over my calendar for the last year. I look at what's worked well, I look at areas where I've struggled, I make a note of the different regular occurrences, doctor's appointments, meds pickups from the pharmacy, school events, because I am a parent right now of kids under 18, as well as issues and challenges and expectations or commitments that have come up within my circle of care for some of that family that's remote, as well as living here in Victoria. So I look at those things, I make a note of them, and then I kind of think strategically around how I can plan as much of that out as possible in the next year so things don't take me by surprise. Examples of that include things like medications. Lots of us in my family have prescriptions for one thing or another, and as prescriptions run out and refills run out, it can be more difficult to see our doctors to get those renewed. So I like to kind of make a note of how many refills there are on different things, as well as when those refills are going to need to be made. Some pharmacies can help you with that, and they'll send you automatic notifications. My pharmacy kind of overdoes that, and I get way too many notifications on my phone, so I've taken to turning that off and doing it myself instead. In addition, I like to try and be proactive about the next year. I've found in the years where I've done this, if I set a goal for myself for the year just sort of seems to come together a little bit more. It seems to be a little bit more focused. So this year, interestingly enough, my goal is focus. I am looking to try and kind of pull things into a clearer picture. There's been a lot of change for me this year. I've started a new job. As well, COVID has kind of put a monkey wrench into just about everything for just about everyone. So I like to try and think of things that I can bring into tighter focus and plan some of those goals around being more tightly focused. For me, it's things like setting up a plan, having a clear daily and monthly set of expectations for myself that I can revisit on a regular basis to make sure that I'm on task, or if things aren't going so well, maybe rejig that and set it up in a new way for myself that might work better. One of the other things I really like to try and plan out is events for my family members and opportunities to connect with some of that more long distance family. My parents, for example, live in Alberta, and they're struggling a little bit with COVID and isolation. While they have each other, because they're in their 80s, they are not getting out like they used to. My stepmom especially is a very extroverted person who was always very connected with friends, always having people over, going for coffee, that sort of thing. COVID's really made a negative impact there. And so I like to set into my calendar regular times to connect using video for them so that they can see us and see the kids. And it really helps them as well as helping us. It's been a long time since we've seen them, so this is our way of maintaining that connection. I also try to do that with my friendship circle. I'm one of those people who's a bit introverted, and so what that means is it can sometimes be hard for me to reach out, especially on the spur of the moment, or especially as I'm starting to feel kind of tired out and done with the week or that particular season of the year. And I can forget to connect to the people that mean a lot to me. And often what's happened in the past is, we've told each other as we talk, like once a year, oh, we should talk more often. But if neither of us plans it, it's never going to happen, right? So what I do is I set up a monthly meeting with a couple of girlfriends, and we connect using Zoom, just to sort of talk about what's going on and what's happening in our lives. We also try to plan to get together once a year. Again, COVID has made that difficult over the past few years, but we did make a connection last year. And we plan those out together, looking at the logistics together, figuring out the bits and pieces of that. But more than anything else, it's a chance for us to just stay connected. And the video helps us do that in a more meaningful way than just a phone call. But again, I have to plan those out once a month with those folks to make sure we're going to connect that and we're going to make it happen. So those are some pieces about connection that you can look at with your calendar. One of the things that has changed for me in the last couple of years, since my daughter and her special needs got really complicated with scheduling things, was I switched from a paper calendar to using an online calendar. I use Google, and it's got a good calendaring system, but there are lots of different online calendars you can use. Microsoft has one, Google has one, there are many out there. The benefit of it is that each of us in the family has our own calendar page, and I put events on each of those pages, and then I invite people to events if they're going to be kind of needed. Another thing is that many different people in our circle can see our calendars because we've shared them, and so other folks know what's going on or what's coming down the pipe, so to speak. It helps me make sure that everything gets done, doesn't get forgotten. Doctor's appointments especially, therapy appointments, that sort of thing. And it also helps others know where they can help. Because one of the challenges that we all have as caregivers is that it can kind of be hard to think of what you need help with when people offer to help you. And so if you've got all your stuff in one place, it can help you see where support could be useful, and it helps you give an easy answer to people who say, hey, how can I help you? And when you have to kind of think of something off the top of your head, it's like, I don't really know, everything's fine. But maybe it's not, and this might help you be able to be willing to receive help and able to receive help in an easier way. So that's another place where it can help you. The calendaring does take a little bit of time to set up. So again, at the beginning of the year, it's something that I actually block time to do. I'll take a day or two, I'll look at them in my calendar and figure out which ones aren't busy. And then I'll sit down and I'll go over the last year, I'll go over the coming year, I'll start filling things into the calendar, I'll start setting up those events, and then I'll also take a little bit of time to look at what am I going to need for me? Where am I putting in my self-care? Where am I putting in my opportunities to connect, as I mentioned earlier, with my friends or my family members who are not living locally? With self-care, what I often do or try to do is look at ways that I can take advantage of what's going on in the community. During COVID, it was harder, not gonna lie, but I did look at online resources as well. I am dabbling a bit in watercolor, so I looked for opportunities to connect with online classes. I looked for opportunities to connect through my local rec center around things like watercolor painting. I also look for things that can help me with my physical wellness. I walk a lot, but I need to exercise my shoulders and my neck because sitting at my desk all the time can kind of make those a bit stiff. So I look for yoga podcasts that I can do or subscribe to that have kind of those monthly goals where if you go a certain number of times a month, then you can kind of achieve a goal together. I'm a bit goal oriented, so that helps me. Before COVID and when COVID is not as bad, I look for in-person classes that I can attend because I've learned about me that if I commit to a thing, I'm way more likely to do it than if I just sort of leave it up to me to do a thing on my own. If I've made an agreement to go, or if I've made an arrangement with a friend to go together, I'll usually make that happen. So that's another thing that helps me. So I look at those things as well. It can be a little bit of a process, but it really is worth doing. It will help you with getting some kind of pieces of the year organized, and it'll help to relieve some of that feeling of overwhelm and chaos that can happen when a lot of busy things come your way. If you see them coming down the pipe and set up events in your calendar or write them down in your planner, and then maybe go a week back and set up a reminder so that you can be ready. It really helps you feel on top of your game. I do that with birthdays, for example. I enter everybody's birthday into my calendar, but a week before, or even a month before, depending on the person, I'll set up a reminder. It'll help remind me to get a card, to mail them if there's someone who's not local, or buy a present to drop on their doorstep if they are. Or with the case of kids, set up a bit of something special, a little party with family or an event that we can go to celebrate their birthday, things that take a little bit of time and consideration. I try not to be taken by surprise as much as possible, and this is where the planning comes into play for me. One of the things that I do try to think about when it comes to planning my calendar is leaving a little bit of wiggle room in it. I try to have at least one day a week where there's nothing really planned going on, so that I have that fallback to reschedule things, or I just have a little bit of downtime. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I do need downtime after having a busy week or doing a lot of busy things, even with my family, and scheduling that in or scheduling sort of open time helps me be able to sort of recover from some of that stuff. When you're looking at the year ahead, it's good to look at a couple of different things that you can set out. So I mentioned important dates like birthdays, also scheduling your respite activities so that you will get them done. If respite involves someone either coming to your home to look after your care recipient or having them go somewhere, you need to plan that in advance. So for my daughter, we have a respite provider, but we have to make arrangements with that person, then we have to drop my daughter off and pick her up, that sort of thing. It's never completely spur of the moment, and so if I plan it, it's more likely to happen and more likely to be predictable, which means I can then schedule activities or engage in some kind of downtime during those respite hours instead of frantically trying to catch up on something that I've forgotten about. So that's another good thing. The other thing is looking for community events that you can add to your calendar, things for your family, things your care recipient might enjoy. Jazz festivals, classical musical festivals, some of these things are hard to come by during COVID, but summers are usually a little bit lighter and you can get out a bit more. There are even online events. There's online symphony with the Victoria Symphony There's also a number of different online options for different kinds of music to enjoy that you can set up with your care recipient, both for enrichment for them as well as for a good activity and enrichment activity for yourself. Sometimes there may be vacation or travel plans that are required. We've got a wedding coming up in our family. It may require some travel in the next year, and so it's good to plan for that and plan around that. We have pets. Are we going to take them? Will they need to be boarded? That kind of thing that requires a little bit of organizing. Regular health maintenance is important for you as well as your care recipient. We all know that appointments need to be made in advance, but you need to do it for yourself as well. Sometimes it's easy to put your needs on the back burner. Again, using a calendar, using a yearly plan will help make sure you're looking after yourself and you don't always fall off the bottom of the list. I did mention self-care goals a little bit. I talked about fitness and wellness. I do like to organize activities for myself so that I get it done. If I just say to myself, I'm going to do some stretches today, I'm not likely to do it. But if I sign up for a podcast, I'm more likely to do it. So for me, it's things like yoga, fitness, like walking my dog regularly 3 times a day. For wellness, it can be things like engaging in some guided meditation, looking at some wellness and mindfulness practice and scheduling it in for yourself on a regular basis, and then community and connection. You may want to set up other goals for yourself, and that's good. It's good to have goals. It gives you focus for each month, for each season of the year, and as you achieve your goals, it gives you that sense of accomplishment. Your goals can be anything, though. They don't have to be serious. They don't have to be, meaningful in terms of productivity. They can just be things you enjoy. Like maybe your goal might be learning how to bake a loaf of bread, or it may be something like learning how to cook a new dish, or learning a little bit more about gardening, that sort of thing. Whatever makes you happy, you can make it into a goal. When it comes to maintaining your yearly plan, though, one of the things you'll want to be mindful of is that it helps if you establish some routines. And one of those routines really should be towards the end of every week. You're going to look at your weekly plan that's just been completed, and then you're going to look at the week that's coming up so you can have an expectation, an understanding of what's coming down the pipe. You can look at what's just gone by to see where you might need to reschedule a thing or move it ahead a week, or where you can sort of celebrate, yay, something worked out, I got that done, what a good week that's been. You want to celebrate the wins, the good things that happen every week. I do this with my daughter. She was getting into a pretty negative mindset around some of the things going on in her life. And she and I decided together to do a daily gratitude practice. So every night, as part of her bedtime routine, we write our gratitudes in a journal and then share them with each other. It's helped both of us improve our mindset. It's helped both of us become more positive and see the good things in every day. So that's something you might want to establish as a routine for yourself if you're finding you're struggling with feeling a bit down in the dumps or feeling like life has gotten on top of you. You want to leave yourself space in between activities if you're scheduling them into your calendar. If you pack too many things in together, it can be exhausting. If you pack too many activities in trying to think, well, I've got that doctor's appointment, I'll try and get this and this and this done because I'll be out of the house, you're going to need a down day afterwards. So kind of plan that in as well. You also want to adjust your expectations. If you have a tough week, if your care recipient has a tough week, cut yourself some slack, be kind, remember that it's just that week and things are always going to be a little bit better the next week. Take extra care of yourself if you've had a tough week. Do some self-care routines or activities that'll make you feel a little bit better. Light a scented candle, have a nice hot bath or a really refreshing shower. Engage in one of your favorite TV programs. Play music that makes you feel good. And that'll help you kind of move out of that negativity or frustration that you've experienced that week. You do want to allow for flexibility in your planning. If you stick too strictly to your plan and then things tend to start going awry because something unexpected has come up, it can feel a little bit out of control. So give yourself time in each week to have wiggle room. And then if you do have a week that's tough, you can look at that with kindness and you can say, oh, well, that didn't work out. How am I going to do it differently going forward? That weekly review is such a golden opportunity to make sure that you do have a chance to reflect and celebrate, as well as rejig things going forward. So I do have a number of resources that my colleague Carla, thank you Carla, has been adding to chat. One was the Google Calendar. The other is a great checklist for planning your year in advance. It's just a handy place to start. There's another one called 11 Simple Things You Can Do to Plan Your Year Ahead. Gives you some ideas. And then there's a third called The Best Year Planning for an Amazing 2022. All of these are just great little articles that you can read and have a look at to see, what works for you, what pieces can you pull to incorporate into your own system of planning. As well, we do have a number of resources in the Learning Center for Family Caregivers of BC, including our flipbook, the amazing Planning Your Care flipbook and checklist that are both very handy for planning as a caregiver, planning for your care recipient. So those are something you'll want to take advantage of as well. You can always reach out to our coaching line as well if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on with your day-to-day. And they can give you some supports and resources around that as well. So I have thoroughly enjoyed my first Facebook Live with all of you. I hope that the ideas that I've shared with you in my first tips and tools from the trenches can help. If you have anything you'd like to add, I would love to see it in the comments. Do feel free to pose any questions that you have, and I will try and get back to the comments to answer them. As well, you're welcome to reach out with any ideas for any tips that you'd like to see going forward. I'll be doing these tips in the first week of every month up until the end of March, and then we'll look at them again going forward from that point. So it was great to meet you all. I'm so happy to be part of the team, and I'm looking forward to connecting again next month. Take care and have a great year. Bye.